Alright, I have another house to introduce to you guys, and this is a house called Nilafar Du Nil, or Nil, from Egypt, all the way from Egypt. I've never spoken about an Egyptian fragrance house before. This is a first, and I've got 4 fragrances I'm going to discuss to you today, or discuss with you today. And I'm going to discuss the fragrances in order of preference. So my favorite at number 1. Least favorite of the fragrances at number 4. But surprisingly, all these fragrances are really wearable. There's not a bad fragrance here. It's just preference, or in order I'm going to talk to you about the 4 fragrances. Great fragrances, actually. Very quality and very wearable. But I do have a favorite that's really, really great. Anyway, 4 fragrances from Nilafar Du Nil. And there is a giveaway, full bottle giveaway for subscribers of this channel from the USA. So find out about Nilafar Du Nil coming right up. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian, and yes, today I'm talking about Nilafar Du Nil fragrances all the way from Egypt. And the fragrances here are 1 unisex targeted, 3 men or male targeted. Out of the, I think they're all very wearable by women. I mean, they could be, but they do lean masculine. And one of the fragrances, which is all citruses, I think is very, very unisex right down the middle. So I'll let you know about the fragrances. As I said, I'm willing to do the fragrance, talk about each fragrance in order of preference. So you'll find out what I think about each fragrance. Before I do that, though, if this is your first time tuning into my channel and you still haven't subscribed to the channel, please click that subscribe button and also click the bell so that you'll be notified for future videos and giveaways. Let me know if you know about this house, Nilafar Du Nil. Let me know if you've sampled fragrances or other fragrances all the way from Egypt. As I said, this is the first Egyptian house I've ever sampled or I'm speaking about. And I'm impressed with the quality of these fragrances. Also, I noticed the prices are not that expensive when I was, checking out their fragrances on their website. So let's start with the first one. So the name of the house, as I said, is Nilafar Du Nil. The name of the first fragrance I'm going to talk to you about is Nilufer. This right here. Here's the bottle. This one, out of all 4 fragrances, is created by Maurice. So this is my first, the first fragrance I'm talking to you about. This is the one that I'm enjoying the most, and it's really, really yummy. It is gourmand leaning, but I wouldn't call this a full-on gourmand. It is gourmand light, and this particular fragrance, Nilufer, I would call a amber fougere. So it is in that fougere style. When you smell the fragrance, you do smell all the fougere-like qualities. Lots of lavender here, which is a prominent note in fougere fragrances. But it does get gourmandy, it does get sweet, it also gets nutty. This is probably one of the best nuttiest fragrances I've ever smelled. Like a fragrance that features nutty notes, like this one features almonds and hazelnuts. So I've been looking and trying to compile fragrances that features nuts so I can do a video with fragrances that feature nutty notes like almonds and hazelnuts. And as I said, this one's probably one of the better smelling nutty fragrances that I have put my nose on. I just like the whole nutty quality here, along with the lavender, plus the vanilla, which gives it the kind of warm syrupiness. Very, very yummy. As I said, this is a fragrance created by Maurice, and if you don't know Maurice, he does fragrances for Xerjoff. So if you're a fan of Xerjoff fragrances, you're probably going to really enjoy this particular fragrance, especially fragrances that are kind of gourmand leaning. But Nilufer came out in 2021. This is Extrait De Parfum concentration. I would call this an amber fougere. It features notes of vanilla, almonds, lavender, hazelnuts, heliotrope, cinnamon, cedar, myrrh, musk, and geranium. So it's got the geranium and lavender, features those particular very prominent notes that appear in fougere fragrances, but this one has loads of nuttiness from the hazelnuts and of course the almonds. I get more of an almondy experience, so there's a little bit of a bitterness, because sometimes there's the whole bitter almond thing, and there's some bitterness that goes with the bitter almonds. Obviously there's a little bit of a bitter almondy touch in here, so I feel like the almonds are a little more prominent than the hazelnuts themselves, but lots of vanilla and lavender as well. And I like this fusion. There are several fragrances out there in the world of fragrances that has this kind of a warm fougere experience. But as I said, this one's done really, really well, and especially with the fact that it has a very prominent nuttiness. Now there's also heliotrope here, and for me heliotrope, it's a flower. It has a kind of a light almondy undertone, and it's very powdery. So this particular fragrance does get powdery. So it's a powdery experience, but very, very prominent with the nuttiness, as I said, and the vanillic lavendery touches. There are some spices that come in. Of course, cinnamon is there. You'll notice it, but it's not the star, so it won't stand out too much. But it's in the background. It's adding some depth to the fragrance. And then finally, it's, you know, woody, some muskiness, and there is some resinous touches as well. So it lightly gets into a little bit of an ambery direction. But for me, it's mostly about the almonds and the hazelnuts. So it's really, really delicious. That's why I've selected this as my #1. Not only because I'm a fan of Chris Maurice, but it's actually a really pleasant fragrance. It's a really great smelling fragrance. It's fougere. It's kind of like a barbershop fragrance, but it's actually warm, spicy, and it's also kind of nutty. Not kind of, very nutty. Anyway, Nilufer is the first fragrance I'm going to talk to you about today from the house of Nilafar Du Nil. So the first fragrance I spoke to you about, Nilufer, is a unisex targeted, and the next 3 fragrances are targeted to men. But I think #2 is definitely very unisex. It's a full-on citrus fragrance, very delicious. And even though I'm testing it now here in the winter, or almost winter, it is definitely going to be perfection come warm weather. When it's really, really hot and humid outside, this particular fragrance is going to be perfection, I think. The other thing is, with #2 and #3, I had a little bit of a challenging time to decide which should be #2, which should be #3. So these two are pretty close. They're kind of tied, I would say, but this is the order I'm going to go with. So #2, it's Jardin de la Bergamot, another 2021 launch, and as I said, this one is targeted to men. I think it can totally be worn by women as well, because it's really a very citrusy experience, and very juicy, crisp citrusy. So this is also an Extrait De Parfum concentration fragrance. The first 2 fragrances are Extrait De Parfum. The next 2 fragrances are Eau de Parfum that I'm going to speak to you about. So Jardin de la Bergamot features notes of bergamot, petitgrain, neroli, grapefruit, musk, ambroxan, vetiver, and lime. So it's pretty much a who's who of lots of citruses and citrus floral notes. And of course there's some muskiness added to it with the addition of musk and also ambroxan thrown in. But it's lots of juicy bergamot, and it's a very juicy experience. So you can actually experience the juiciness of the bergamot. There's some tartness there. There's some tanginess there. But it's also nicely sweet. It's not fully like an overdose of tart sourness. There's some sweetness there to kind of balance it out. But you know what? There's lots of petitgrain here, so it has a very greenish touch. Whenever I experience this note, which is a favorite because I like that bitter, woody, citrusy touch from that petitgrain note, which is the leaves of the bitter orange tree. So it's really, really prominent, and it blends beautifully with the bergamot note. Now, on top of that, you also have something else from the citrus family. The neroli note, which is the flower, you know, the beautiful, very, very fragrant citrus flower here. And I think the bergamot, petitgrain, and neroli really do play beautifully together. They really complement one another, and I think they blend very well together. So you have an overdose of citrusiness. Not only do you have the fruit, you have the leaves, you have the flower. Perfection, right? But here, this particular fragrance also has a little bit of zing to it. There's some grapefruit juiciness and spicy bitterness as well thrown in here, because grapefruit to me has some bitter zing to it, especially the skin, and you experience that here. But the remainder of the fragrance, you have musk, lots of it. It gets musky, citrus musky, and then of course a little bit more with that ambroxan note thrown in, so it does have a little bit of a woody, ambery experience with loads of musk. And then there's a little bit of a vetiver-y touch, but it's kind of grassy, not kind of damp, moldy kind of smelling vetiver, more of the fresh, aromatic, woody kind. Really, really wonderful fragrance. I really love it, and I think this will be perfect for hot summer days. So definitely check this one out, Jardin de la Bergamot. And as I said, this is male targeted. I think it's totally unisex for me. So that is the second fragrance that I'm talking about from this house. And as I said, it's very, very close to the next one. And I shouldn't say it's very close to the next one. I think it's more of a tie. I just put them in this particular order because Narmar, the third fragrance I'm going to talk to you about, this one is male targeted once again, and I think this one does lean masculine. And this is tied with number 2, the Jardin de la Bergamot. Narmar and the next one, Madem, that I'm going to speak about for number 4, both of them feature aromatic notes and leather. But they go in different directions. Go figure. So different. And I do prefer this one much more than Madem because there's something about this one that's very, very classy. It's very elegant and also just a beautiful blend of notes together. So this is a 2020 launch. It is for men. And you know, I just forget to mention, I don't know who the perfumers are for the 3 last fragrances. I do know for sure number 1 is created by Maurice. So I don't know who did these, but they did do a good job. And this is Eau de Parfum concentration, and also I would consider it's a woody, spicy, or a leather fragrance. I think it's a combination of the styles for me because it's more woody, spicy, but it does get leathery, if that makes sense. So Narmar features notes of cardamom, suede leather, cashmerean, lavender, tobacco, clary sage, and tea. A beautiful blend. It's really a beautiful blend. And the cardamom is very aromatic and spicy. It's got that very, very fragrant smell, kind of a pungent, strong smell that actually is very, very beautiful here. It's pretty much running the show here along with suede leather. And it's a soft leather. It doesn't get animalic to me because sometimes leathers do get animalic. Suede leathers generally don't when I see this kind of a note. And it is a very soft leather. It's not harsh, hard, and strong, kind of overwhelming, you know, kind of animalic leaning. This one's really, really pleasant. That's why I said it's very, very classy. It's just a perfect blend. You know, everything is blended beautifully together to create a very pleasantly, you know, pleasant experience kind of a fragrance. You wear it and you wear it for not only the classiness, but you also wear it for something that smells really, really great. But you know what? With this one, you also get lots of lavender once again, and it's overly musky. There's a major muskiness with that cashmerean note here. And cashmerean, once again, kind of sort of like ambroxan to me, but a little more stronger. There's a major woodiness with it. There's major amberiness, and of course lots of muskiness with cashmerean note. When you compare ambroxan with cashmerean, there's definitely a smell there for cashmerean. It's really, really strong, whereas ambroxan can kind of be very non-smelling, like not smell like much, if anything. So you're gonna have a very strong nose, or you could be anosmic to it. But here, definitely the cashmerean adds this kind of like woody, musky, ambery muskiness to the fragrance, along with this lavender note. The lavender comes up quite a bit in some of the fragrances here. The three fragrances for sure. And then of course this one also has tobacco, but it's the kind of tobacco that's not ashy. It's more like tobacco leaves to me. That's what I'm picking up here. There's no dirtiness whatsoever, not only from the dirtiness from the leather, because the suede leather is really beautiful and buttery here, along with the tobacco. So I think I'm experiencing more of the tobacco leaves here. But it's an overdose of aromatics and spices with the suede leather and the cashmerean notes. Beautiful fragrance, really beautiful. Narmar is number 3, but as I said, it's tied with number 2. All right, finally, number 4 selection is Madem. And as I said at the beginning, before the introduction here, I was mentioning all of these fragrances are wearable. So basically, I'm putting this in order of preference. This particular fragrance is very, very wearable, but I don't like this particular style as much as what I've experienced, you know, before this particular fragrance. And even though 3 and 4 seem to be kind of similar with the leatheriness and the aromatic, spicy woodiness, I much prefer number 3 over this one. Go figure. So Madem is a 2021 launch once again. It is male targeted, and I think these last 2 fragrances are definitely leaning masculine. But for me, I don't think there's any rules. If you're a woman and you like to smell, wear it. If you're a man, you like the smell of a woman's fragrance, fragrance, why not wear it? This is an eau de parfum concentration. It's considered an aromatic spicy leather fragrance, and when I'm going to say leather, leather is not very prominent for me, I should say. It doesn't come up too much, and if it does, it's kind of in the background. So it does get leathery, but for me it was more about the aromatic spiciness rather than the leatheriness of this particular fragrance. But in the end, this features notes of lavender, metallic notes, sage, cardamom, olibanum, leather, myrrh, nutmeg, coffee, bergamot. Lots of stuff going on here. For me though, it's very metallic. There's a metallic experience with the aromatic lavender. So there's definitely this metallic kind of glassy kind of a touch with this particular fragrance. You can kind of experience this shininess, this crystallized metallic touch with this one for some odd reason. Very, very prominent when you're wearing it. But lots of lavender. There's lots of the metallic touch here. And then of course there's the sage note as well, loads of it with this particular fragrance. So it's aromatics together with the metallic notes with spices. There is a little bit of a resinous touch in this one as well, and of course the resins of olibanum and myrrh kind of add a kind of an ambery experience more in the base though. And this is where I'm experiencing the leather as well, obviously. So leather kind of develops very, very late in the late stage, so it's very, very light on me. You do experience it though. But either way, it's still definitely a very wearable fragrance. I just put it at number 4 because this particular one was my least favorite out of the 4 fragrances. So madem is number 4 here. And again, all of the fragrances are very, very wearable, with my favorite being Nilufer. I really, really love the way this one smells, and I love the color of the juice. Can you see, like, every other one of these fragrances has very kind of light juice. But I really love the color of this particular, and it's all this ambery color. So really gorgeous. If you like nutty fragrances, if you like the idea of nuts, almonds, hazelnuts, and of course the lavender and the vanilla, you definitely must smell this. Probably the best nutty fragrance I've put my nose on, as I said at the beginning of the video. And hopefully soon I'll compile a video of the nuttiest fragrances. Sounds funny, right? Anyway, that is Nilufer. But you know what? The bergamot also, it's really, really great. And even though this one is targeted to men, I think women can totally pull this one off. Either way, guys, that's my thoughts on this particular collection of fragrances. I do want to say these were sent to me. I was asked to review these fragrances by the owner of the brand. So I am doing this as honestly as possible, and I'm quite impressed with the quality of the fragrances. So number 1 and number 2 I think are really great, although the number 3 is also really, really great here. Definitely fragrances I would pull for and wear. You can go check out their fragrances in the info box. I have a link to their website, and I feel like their fragrances are not very expensive when I was looking at their fragrances on their website. Let's go ahead and do the giveaway now. I'll tell you how to participate. It is a USA giveaway. They decided to only stick to sponsoring USA, even though they're from Egypt. So what we're going to have to do is, you let me know what you liked about this video. You also let me know which fragrance you would select if you won, and also please put down your state to participate. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, please, as I am only selecting public subscribers of this channel. Anyway, thanks so much for watching today's video on this house, guys. I appreciate you tuning in. As I was saying in another video a week or so ago, probably going to stop doing you know, house introductions for a bit, and I'll come back to it. This might be the last, although there might be one more next weekend, we'll see. But I'll revisit this kind of like introducing new houses on the channel. It kind of goes in waves. I get a bunch of them, and then it kind of dies down, and then it comes back again. I don't think I have another one after this one. Either way, I appreciate you tuning in to learn about this house from Egypt. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. Please like this video, please share it, follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.